Nitish Kumar to be sworn in as Chief Minister of Bihar today for the 7th time. BJP elects Turkish Prasad as leader of Legislature Party and Renu Devi as Deputy Leader. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to unveil Statue of Peace in Rajasthan's Pali district via video conferencing to mark 151st birth anniversary celebrations of Jain monk Acharya Shree Vijay Vallabh SurishwerJi Maharaj. India continues to fight COVID-19. India continues to have one of the lowest cases per million population globally. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan to chair meeting of WHO Executive Board today. Religious worship places across Maharashtra set to reopen from today. They were shut in Maharashtra since the COVID lockdown in March. Global COVID cases cross 5 crore 40 lakh figure. US records more than and Spacex launches first privately owned spacecraft into space with 4 astronauts. And in Formula 1, Lewis Hamilton sets a new record number of wins. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news. I'm Rukmaina. Top story. Nitish Kumar is all set to take over the command of Bihar yet again. He was elected leader of the NDA Legislature Party and will be sworn in today. The BJP elected Turkish Prasad as its party leader in the legislature. Renu Devi is the deputy leader. Here are the details.
Nitish Kumar is set to continue as the Chief Minister of Bihar. He was elected as the leader of the NDA at the alliance meeting in Patna on Sunday. Senior BJP leader Rajnath Singh presided over the meeting at the CM's residence in Patna. Alliance leaders Jitan Ram Manji of Hum and Mukesh Sahni of VIP were also present.
विधायक दल के नेता नीतीश कुमार जी निर्वाचित हुए हैं और भारतीय जनता पार्टी विधायक दल के नेता श्री तारकिशोर जी और उपनेता श्रीमती रेणु देवी निर्वाचित हुई हैं और नीतीश जी के साथ सारे सभी लोग महामहिम राज्यपाल महोदय से आज मिले हैं। डिप्टी सीएम का फैसला तो यह सब बैठकर करेंगे लोग।
After the meeting, Nitish Kumar proceeded to Raj Bhavan and state claim to form the government. He'll be sworn in as Bihar's next chief minister on Monday.
ये विधानमंडल दल की बैठक हो गई, उसमें फिर मुझे नेता के रूप में निर्वाचित किया गया। महामहिम राज्यपाल महोदय को उसका पत्र आज अभी दे दिया गया और उन्होंने इसको स्वीकार करते हुए मुख्यमंत्री के रूप में मनोनीत कर दिया। इसके बाद हम लोग बैठकर कल शपथ ग्रहण समारोह होगा, कल 4 साढ़े 4 बजे जो भी होगा आफ्टरनून में होगा और उसके बारे में कितने लोग शपथ लेंगे इन सब चीजों के बारे में अब निर्णय होगा।
However, Nitish evaded questions on the issue of cabinet formation, just adding that the government will take all the people from different sections of society together and will work for all.
से काम करना पड़ेगा और ये तौर पर ताकि लोगों ने पुनः अवसर दिया है बिहार का और आगे विकास हो और उसके लिए सब मिलकर के काम करेंगे, कहीं कोई कमी न रहे किसी भी क्षेत्र में और समाज के किसी
कल कितने मंत्री शपथ लेंगे
सब लोग करेंगे।
Earlier, Nitish Kumar was elected as leader of JDU's legislative party. Meanwhile, newly elected MLA Turkish Prasad has been elected as BJP legislative party leader in Bihar, while 4-time MLA Renu Devi has been elected deputy leader of the legislative party.
इस कार्यकाल में विधायक दल के नेता के रूप में एक बड़ा दायित्व मिला है और उस दायित्व का निर्वहन हम बेहतर ढंग से करेंगे। जो संसदीय मेरा अनुभव रहा है उसका लाभ मिलेगा और फिर जो दल और हमारे जो नेता हैं उनके साथ बेहतर ढंग से काम करेंगे।
Nitish Kumar has been a prominent face in state politics for about 4 decades. He will take oath as Chief Minister for the 7th time on Monday. Starting his political journey as a friend and companion of Lalu Prasad Yadav, Nitish Kumar later broke away and formed Samata Party. Later on, he merged his party with the JDU and thereafter dominated the caste-ridden, steeply divided Bihar politics, and he gained considerable goodwill, especially among women voters, after taking a tough decision to enforce prohibition in the state. His appetite for development works has earned the nickname Sushashan Babu, and that is exactly what the people will still want him to do: work for development of the state for the next 5 years. With Dheeraj in Patna, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will unveil the Statue of Peace in Rajasthan's Pali district via video conferencing today to mark the 151st birth anniversary celebrations of Jain monk Acharya Shree Vijay Vallabh SurishwerJi Maharaj, the saint who lived from 1870 to 1954, led an austere life, working selflessly and dedicatedly to spread the message of Lord Mahavira. He also worked relentlessly for the welfare of the masses, the spread of education and eradication of social evils, writing inspiring literature and giving active support to the freedom movement and the cause of Swadeshi. With his inspiration, more than 50 educational institutions of eminence, including colleges, schools and study centers, are operational across several states. The 151-inch tall statue is made of Ashtadhatu, that is 8 metals, with copper being the major constituent, and is being installed at the Vijay Vallabh Sadhana Kendra in Jetpura in Rajasthan's Pali. And let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the country. 43,851 recoveries were made yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 82,49,579. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 93.27%. India's three-pronged strategy of test, trace and treat is proving to be a success. The fatality rate has dropped to 1.47%, with 1,30,070 deaths recorded so far. The number of active COVID-19 cases in India stands at 4,65,478, which is 5.26% of total cases reported so far. And India continues to have one of the lowest cases per million population globally. Some states and union territories are performing better, reporting even lower cases per million population than the national average. This is the result of a sustained slump in addition to new cases. Less than 50,000 added per day in the last 8 days, and consistently increasing number of recoveries, more than 82 lakhs, following the centre-led targeted public health response measures against COVID. Meanwhile, Union Home Minister Amit Shah yesterday reviewed the COVID-19 situation in Delhi in the backdrop of rising number of cases and increasing strain on the capacity of medical infrastructure in hospitals in the capital. The Union Home Minister issued a number of directions in the meeting, including doubling testing capacity for RT-PCR tests in Delhi. Also, Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan will chair a meeting of the WHO Executive Board today. More in this report.
The government has been working relentlessly to see the COVID infection in India remains within control. It has been a challenge, but the efforts have been successful. Close monitoring of the virus in different parts of the country has helped the test, track and treat policy over the last 8 months. There has been an overall and steady decline in the number of active cases across the country, but in Delhi the cases have been on the rise. Union Home Ministry convened a meeting of the Coordination Committee on Sunday evening. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan, Union Health Secretary, Lieutenant Governor of Delhi attended the meeting, chaired by the Home Minister Amit Shah. Amit Shah detailed the COVID fight plan with 12-point instructions. The RT-PCR tests will be doubled in Delhi. The testing labs in the capital will be used to the optimum, and Health Ministry and ICMR mobile testing vans will be stationed in vulnerable areas. The central government has put in place a systematic mechanism to deal with this pandemic at the national level. The results are clear for all to see. Fewer than 50,000 cases of COVID-19 have been reported every day for the last 8 days. The last time more than 50,000 cases were seen was on November 7. In the last 24 hours, only 41,100 persons have been found infected with COVID in India. At the same time, the number of people recovering from COVID has been increasing steadily. In the last 24 hours, 42,156 patients were cured and discharged after treatment and monitoring. The active number of cases is only 5.44% of total cases, and the recovery rate has risen to 93.09%. The cumulative number of cured patients is 82,05,728, which is by far the highest in the world. The decline must be seen in the context of the rising number of cases in Europe and America, which has necessitated the reimposition of a lockdown in some parts of those countries. At the heart of the strategy in India is the focus on testing. There has been an average of 1 million tests a day, and between the 12th of November and the 14th of November, a total of 48,36,819 tests were done. With a focused containment strategy, the government has restricted the spread of COVID, and even today, 83% of all cases come from 10 states, union territories. In 21 states, the fatality rate is less than the national average. Meanwhile, work on a vaccine has been progressing rapidly. On Sunday, the Union Health Minister told Doordarshan that he hoped a vaccine for COVID-19 would be available in the country in the first or second month of 2021. That's not far away.
दुनिया के अंदर 200 से ज़्यादा वैक्सीन कैंडिडेट्स हैं, उसमें से थोड़े से क्लिनिकल ट्रायल्स में एडवांस स्टेजेस में पहुंच गए हैं, 3-4 हमारे भारत के हैं उसमें, और उसमें से भी 2 तो थर्ड फेज में पहुंच गए हैं, और उस सब के आधार पर हमें उम्मीद है कि जैसे नया साल शुरू होगा 2021, तो पहले महीने में नहीं तो दूसरे महीने में हमारे को निश्चित रूप से वैक्सीन उपलब्ध हो जाएगी.
The onset of winter, coupled with the festive season, has added to the concern of a potential spike in the number of COVID cases. But responsible behavior by citizens and effective management by the government has blunted the surge for now. But as the winter intensifies, that threat continues to be a clear and present danger. So responsibilities also scale up accordingly. Hence, take all precautions, wear masks, keep a distance of 2 yards and avoid unnecessary social engagements. That way the country will continue to succeed in controlling the corona infection. DD India.
And according to the Indian Council of Medical Research, a total of 12 crore 56 lakhs 98,525 samples have been tested for COVID so far. Of these, 8 lakh 61,706 samples were tested just yesterday. And religious places of worship have reopened in Maharashtra since this morning with the mandatory coronavirus safety measures such as masks, sanitizers and temperature checks. The Maharashtra government has urged the citizens to follow social distancing and COVID protocols while entering religious sites. As part of the standard operating procedures or SOPs, governing bodies of these sites are looking after crowd management, and people above 65, children below 10, as well as pregnant women who have been advised to stay at home. Religious places were closed in the state and most other states since March due to the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Jharkhand government has banned Chhat Puja in public water bodies due to the COVID pandemic. The state government said in an order that Chhat Puja in water bodies including public ponds, lakes, rivers, dams, reservoirs will not be permitted in view of COVID-19 pandemic. The state government said in an order that since it is not possible to ensure compliance of the national directive of social distancing norms of 2 gaz ki duri while performing Chhat Puja in the water bodies, therefore Chhat Puja in such places will not be permitted so as to minimize chances of the spread of infection. Also, the Jharkhand government has banned organization of any musical or other entertainment or cultural program during the puja this year. Sabrimala Lord Ayappa Temple opened yesterday for this year's Mandala pilgrimage season. The main priest opened the door of the Sanctum Sanctorum and performed puja and rituals to the deity. Devotees will be allowed to enter the shrine from today. Due to the prevailing COVID protocols, entry will be allowed for those devotees who have booked for darshan via virtual queue. During this Mandala season, COVID-19 certificate is mandatory for all pilgrims. Each devotee should carry a COVID-19 negative certificate taken within the last 24 hours. Those who do not carry such a certificate must undergo COVID test at Nilakal. Pilgrims who test positive for COVID will be shifted to CFLTC at Rani. And the Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, Yogi Adityanath and Trivendra Singh Rawat, arrived at the Kedarnath temple to offer prayers and participated in the portal closing ceremony of the shrine in the early hours today. Yogi Adityanath and Trivendra Rawat witnessed snowfall in the temple premises as they entered the shrine here. And the air quality in Delhi NCR plunged into the very poor category, with air quality index crossing the 300 index value in Delhi NCR. According to latest estimates updated by the Central Pollution Control Board on its Sameer app, Delhi recorded air quality in the very poor category with an AQI of 313. In NCR, AQI of Noida is 322, Greater Noida 311 and Gurugram 322. Meanwhile, in a bit of relief, air pollution levels are likely to fall as several places in Delhi NCR have started recording thunderstorm with light rain and moderate winds. According to the Met Department, rain and thunder is associated with a western disturbance which started impacting the western Himalayas on Saturday. National Press Day is being observed across India today. National Press Day is celebrated every year on November 16 to commemorate the establishment of the Press Council of India, formed in 1966. National Press Day is a symbol of a free and responsible press in India, as the Press Council of India acts as a moral watchdog for the media. It also makes sure that the institution of the press should not be controlled by the influence of threats of any extraneous factors. India in the Constitution provides the right to freedom of speech and expression. However, freedom of the press is not specifically mentioned in Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. On the occasion, Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar tweeted, "Free press is a pillar of India's democracy. This day focuses on responsibilities towards ensuring a free press. The biggest threat today is fake news." Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. The virus has infected more than 5 crore 48 lakh, out of which over 3 crore 81 lakh people have recovered. More than 13 lakh 24,000 people have lost their lives worldwide. The virus is ravaging the most across the United States and Brazil. In the US, the number of COVID cases have crossed 1 crore 13 lakh, with fatalities passing 2 lakh 51,000, while Brazil is trailing behind the US in terms of death toll. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has isolated himself after coming into contact with Lee Anderson, a Conservative Party member who has tested positive for COVID-19. In a message posted on his Twitter account yesterday, the Prime Minister of Britain said he is well and does not have any symptoms. Johnson said in the tweet that he will continue to lead the government's pandemic response. Boris Johnson met with a group of lawmakers earlier in Downing Street that included Lee Anderson as well. Johnson was also admitted to hospital with the novel coronavirus earlier this year. With France entering the third week of COVID-19-induced lockdown, French police have ramped up checks all over Paris to ensure people have required permission slips for essential travel. Citizens failing to present a valid permission slip are fined €135. France has registered over 19 lakh 81,000 cases of COVID, with the death toll also rising by more than 300 to cross 44,500 from the viral disease. In Italy too, police have been deployed in Rome to ensure crowds are abiding by restrictions imposed to slow down the surge in COVID cases in the country. In a bid to curb the virus's growing cases, the Italian government had earlier created a 3-tier system classifying areas based on their varying degrees of caseload. Italy so far has more than 11,78,000 cases of COVID-19, while the number of fatalities in the country has also passed 45,000. And United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for unity over the pandemic. Speaking virtually to leaders and delegates at the 37th ASEAN Summit, Guterres praised the swift and effective actions the countries have taken to combat coronavirus and pressed on the importance of global public access to all available COVID-19 vaccines, saying its crucial role to the recovery of the world's economy. And on to some other non-COVID international news. Elon Musk, Spacex and NASA have jointly launched 4 astronauts to the International Space Station in a spectacular evening liftoff that came days after the company's Dragon capsule became the first privately owned and operated spacecraft to be certified by NASA for human space flight. SpaceX earned that designation and the right to undertake what NASA hopes will be regular missions to the space station and back, after it completed a test flight of 2 astronauts earlier this year. With Sunday's launch, NASA took another step towards a new era in human spaceflight in which private companies partner with the government to build and design spacecraft and rockets. President Donald Trump appeared to acknowledge publicly for the first time on Sunday that Democrat Joe Biden had won the November 3rd U.S. presidential elections. But he said he was not conceding, asserting the election was rigged, reiterating his false claims of widespread voting fraud. He later tweeted he concedes nothing. Biden defeated Trump by winning a series of battleground states that the Republican incumbent had won in 2016. The Democratic former vice president also won the national popular vote by more than 5.5 million votes, or 3.6 percentage points. Biden has won 306 votes in the state-by-state electoral college system that determines the presidential winner. According to Edison Research, far more than the 270 needed to secure a majority. One person was stabbed and at least 10 were arrested after a fight broke out in Washington, D.C. on Saturday between supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump and counter-protesters. The melee occurred following a march through downtown Washington by tens of thousands of Trump supporters, echoing his unsubstantiated claims of election fraud. The city's police department had made 10 arrests by mid-afternoon, including 4 for firearms violations, 2 for assault and 1 for assaulting an officer. Russian peacekeepers have arrived in Armenia's Dadivank Monastery, a territory due to be ceded to Azerbaijan within days. Russia has deployed troops as part of a Moscow-brokered ceasefire deal to end 6 weeks of fighting between ethnic Armenian forces and Azeri troops over the enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh and surrounding areas. Azerbaijan was initially expected to take over the Kalbajar region controlled by ethnic Armenians since the end of the First War over Nagorno-Karabakh earlier, but Baku has extended the deadline until November 25th. At least 67 people were killed and 12 remained missing after Typhoon Vamco tore through the Philippine main island of Luzon. Vamco is the 21st typhoon to hit the country this year, inundating several parts of the capital and other provinces with its strong winds and torrential rains on Wednesday. Floods have receded in most parts of Manila and nearby provinces, but several towns in northeastern Cagayan Valley remain submerged due to massive flooding. Packing winds of up to 165 kilometers per hour, Vamco is forecast to hit a swathe of Vietnam's coast from Ha Tinh to Quang Ngai province, said the government's weather agency. In Peru, people thronged streets, chanting slogans and holding flags to celebrate the resignation of interim President Manuel Merino. Merino resigned after the country's political parties demanded he step down or face impeachment following the deaths of 2 people in protest over the sudden ouster of his predecessor. Merino had been in office for less than a week since its Congress voted to remove Martin Vizcarra as president over bribery allegations. On to sports. Lewis Hamilton clinched the 7th World Championship, becoming the most successful racing driver ever with a masterful victory in the Turkish Grand Prix yesterday. The Mercedes driver equaled Michael Schumacher's achievement in terms of titles after already surpassing the German's number of race wins last month. Hamilton now stands alongside F1 great Michael Schumacher on 7 titles, having replaced the German great at Mercedes in 2013. And England's hopes of qualifying for the Nations League finals were ended by a 2-0 defeat against Belgium in Leuven. Leicester City's Yuri Tielemans opened the scoring after 10 minutes when his 20-yard shot took a deflection off Tyrone Mings, and Dries Mertens doubled their advantage 13 minutes later with a superb free kick after Declan Rice was harshly adjudged to have fouled Kevin De Bruyne. Belgium's second came after Romelu Lukaku had headed off the line brilliantly from Harry Kane, and while England spent much of the second half in their opponent's half, they were unable to fashion the opportunities to work their way back into contention. Defeat means England will not reach the finals after finishing third in 2019 when the inaugural showpiece was held in Portugal. Rafael Nadal began his bid for the biggest title missing from his vast collection with an ATP Finals win over Russian debutant Andrei Rublev. Spanish second seed Nadal won 6-3, 6-4 as the season-ending event began in London for the final time. Earlier on the opening day, third seed Dominic Thiem avenged his defeat by Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas in last year's final with a 3-set victory. US Open champion Thiem won 7-6, 4-6, 6-3 in an empty O2 arena. And that's all we have for you in this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD India, so keep watching. Namaskar.